Donald Trump is promising to release the Jeffrey Epstein client list. The former president joined Lex Fridman on his popular podcast on Monday, where Trump said that if reelected, he would have, quote, no problem releasing more files relating to convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Let's take a listen.
The list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Now, a list of names of people who visited Epstein's island, including Trump, was released in January when a New York judge unsealed court documents. Prince Andrew, former U.S. President Bill Clinton, were among the public figures on the list too, but Trump denies ever going. Let's watch.
There's a moment where you had some hesitation about Epstein, releasing some of the documents on Epstein. Why the hesitation?
I don't think I mean, I'm not involved. I never went to his island, fortunately.
Now, regardless if he frequented Epstein's island, he didn't release any related material when he was in the White House. Pollster Frank Luntz pointed this out, posting on X, quote, Jeffrey Epstein died in August 2019, and Trump did not release any Epstein files in the remaining 17 months of his presidency. He's also got Epstein's old jet. And I know that when old people die, Robbie, it doesn't mean that much that their jet ends up in someone else's hands. Rich people buy things. There's probably not a huge number of private jets, but interesting that now Jeffrey Epstein's jet has Trump 2024 painted on it, and Trump has been taking it around on the campaign trail.
Very interesting. Well, a lot of people have been wondering for years now why we cannot just see this client list. Why? Is it because powerful people in our government or in private industry don't want you to know that they were at least attempted to be involved, that Jeffrey Epstein had tried to rope them into his sexual abuse of minors, had tried to, you know, he was running some kind of blackmailing operation to have power over these people in terms of inviting them on his plane, inviting them to his island, putting them into compromising situations, not to say that everyone involved in that was just like some innocent victim or had no idea. You ought to have known, especially after he had already been convicted and put away for sexual abuse of minors. This is something that already happened. And then Jeffrey Epstein was able to reinsert himself into polite society to still have a positive relationship with Bill Gates, with financial institutions, with universities, with political figures, and to go about continuing to abuse minors until he was again arrested and then obviously allegedly killed himself or did die. It's not alleged that he died, he's dead. But how it happened is, of course, some matter of dispute in prison. But yeah, we want to know. We want to know what is being covered up and why can't it just be revealed who else was involved.
Yeah, I think the New York judge that ended up unsealing these court documents was like, there's no reason they should have been sealed in the first place, which I think speaks to your exact point. This is powerful people trying to protect themselves against what? Public scrutiny, criminal charges. The fact that there's a list of very powerful people that we still don't have access to, even after a judge said there's no reason this should have been sealed in the first place, is ridiculous. And I think there's a reason Donald Trump doesn't say, yes, absolutely, I would release the Epstein files. Instead, he says, I'll take a look at it. And he deflects the question onto talking about Kennedy. I think there's a reason Donald Trump doesn't want those files released, because we've seen the photos of him and his wife partying with Ghislaine Maxwell and partying with Jeffrey Epstein. They were buddies. I'm sure people that are implicated on those lists are his friends if he's not on those lists himself. So I am very doubtful that Trump, when had the opportunity as president to make these documents public, will make them public if he becomes president in 2024, or rather 2025. I don't think that's going to be one of the first things he does once he gets in office, nor do I think we can expect it within his 4-year term.
Yeah, I think you could say it's clearly not a priority of his. It didn't happen when he was president. It could have happened. Of course, it also hasn't happened under the Biden administration. Whether Trump will be more motivated to enact policies or accomplish things that so many of his supporters want him to accomplish next time around is an open question. This is one of them. Obviously, there's significant interest in having Epstein's vast web of corruption and sexual abuse exposed and the people involved held accountable. And the frustrating thing is that whichever party wins, it seems there's very little interest in doing so or of explaining how this came to be, how he continued to have sway over the Virgin Islands with Bill Gates, with Harvard, and yes, an association going back a long ways with Trump, with the Clintons, and what came of that. That's something the American people want answered, and unfortunately they can't necessarily properly trust the political system to deliver them some to get to the bottom of it.
Right. And yeah, Clinton, of course, had his day in the sun as a weird dude, a creepy dude, maybe. I think that
maybe.
No one was surprised.
Certainly,
yeah,
I would say.
Maybe.
More than maybe.
Yeah, I think Prince Andrew and the royal family, that was a bit more of a scandal when we saw his name on these documents, because people were aware of this sort of hush money case where he paid her to go away. That's what wealthy people do. They say, all right, how about instead of continuing on and bringing these charges against me and having our day in court, I just give you a bunch of money and that'll make this all better. Of course, people want to know if a public figure has been accused of something like this and what they've done. And so I think it's gave me a strong sense of justice back in January when we saw, Prince Andrew implicated for what he did, because I think just people have a right to know. And so often you have these terrible things go away because someone's paid off. And I think the people have a right to know. And I think no one should be above the law. No one should be able to buy their way out of being accountable for something bad they did. And so, at a time when the royal family was ostracizing Meghan and Harry, why were they not ostracizing Prince Andrew? Why was he one of the darlings of the royal family? But what, Meghan Markle is a criminal because she's Black and American? Just what happened in that family during, recent years is really sad to me, and it speaks to their priorities. And I think, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal is just one of the many nails in the coffin of the royal family's respect in the world. But I think people want to know what the flight logs look like. And there's all kinds of documents, circling on the web saying, these are the official documents, these are the official documents. And a lot of them are not what was in the court documents. I think people need once and for all everything we've got on the Epstein case, no pseudonyms, call people by their actual names. There's no reason any of this should have been sealed. And there's no reason more charges weren't brought against these folks. Why were there not more investigations done? We've just still got more questions than answers.
More Rising right after this.